everyone, I'm Firefly Fi, or Blackberry Ghost, and I'm going to be making a game in Unity. So if you're new to this, you may be wondering, what is Unity? Well, in short, it's a game engine. More powerful than Scratch, more features than Scratch, and no stupid JSON limit. It's probably one of the best game engines out there, which is why I'm switching to it, but it is also incredibly hard to use, and here I am making a devlog when I don't even know how to code. Uh, it's nothing. I'm sure it'll be fine. So, enjoy me learning to code and probably raging in my first ever Unity devlog. So, for context, this is where I am after about a month of on and off Unity work. Not a lot, honestly, but it is really bad. I'm probably using the wrong type of collider for the feet and head and stuff, since you can get caught on a ledge like this and not be able to jump. And overall, it's really quite annoying. It is an okay platformer engine, but there's so many little nitpicks about it, and I gotta do better than that. So, in just a moment, I'm going to explain my idea on how to make this better and hopefully make it not so trashy anymore. In Unity, a box collider is pretty much the ultimate collision engine. If it collides with another box collider, it pretty much perfectly goes back to the spot where it's supposed to be. It doesn't go through, it doesn't do anything of the sort. And we're gonna get rid of it because I don't like box colliders. They're annoying, and I'm not going to use it. So instead, I'm going to use box casting, which is basically like creating an invisible box, seeing what it's touching, and then returning the value of whatever it's touching. Should be easy, right? Ah, yes. These errors aren't supposed to happen. So, I ended up switching the version of my project like 3 different times, uninstalling and reinstalling Visual Studio, and the errors just kept getting worse. And so, I finally had to do what any reasonable person would have done in this situation. I went onto Discord to get some help, and I found a really neat Discord called the Game Dev League, posted my question, and got a few answers from a few different people. So, thank you to both Greg underscore V underscore Lions and nsanders90. You have saved my entire career. And it turns out all that was wrong was misspelling. In my defense, I do blame myself for not checking spelling correctly. Also, IntelliSense wasn't installed, so yeah, I think I'll go install that. By the way, this story has been shortened for your viewing pleasure, because honestly, I didn't really want to include the part where I remade it all in a new project, only for it to not work again, and also my several day frustration over certain other things. Let's just move on. And so, after a little bit of frustration, scratch that, a lot of frustration and me being an idiot, and some code, we now have a really bad player controller. Uh, that's not supposed to happen. Be right back. I think I fixed it, maybe. Anyway, uh, why is it when I start recording that? Okay, I'm back. Um, I honestly think that it's just because of the frame rate drop that it starts doing weird things. Uh, But anyway, if there was no frame rate drop, the jump would be a lot less large. But anyway, you have I have variable jump height. I have a few other things. No coyote time because I haven't figured that out yet, but I'll get there. One annoying thing is yes, the graphic is floating off the ground slightly. That's normal. Once I actually have sprites, it won't show really. And then you can also wall jump in a very, very weird way, which is an issue with the box colliders, which I will fix momentarily. Oh, also, weird wall stuff is happening. Yeah, that pretty much can describe everything. Weird wall stuff. I'll be back soon with something that works a little bit better. Several days of trying to figure out time.delta time later, I have a maybe kind of okay player controller. It does weird things when it starts, as you can see. It does a weird glitchy thing, but yeah, it's actually got a good jump that functions when I'm recording. It only took me several days to complete, and this time the error was not stupid. It was just me not being able to learn how to do time.delta time correctly. So we have all the same things, variable jump height and box colliders. Of course, there is this error with hitting a wall and all, but we'll get to that next. So after a few lines of code and also a few bug fixes, this should, apart from that intro sequence, there should be no more wall jumping and no more, that's, dang it. Okay, well, I'm gonna try to explain something real quickly. Alright, so let me explain. Currently, we're using this little player character thing, and the player character has a box collider, and that collider is currently shown in green. And then it also sends out a box cast, which is, again, an invisible box, and that invisible box checks for the ground, and it looks like this. And then this one checks to see if there's ground to the side, and so on and so forth until we get to this, which is not super a problem, but bear with me here. So, since I'm using a rigid body, the rigid body force gets applied at the end of every frame, and so then, the first thing that it probably does, or the last thing, but that translates to the first thing pretty equally, is move the child into the ground. And so then these ones light up, and then it sets the y velocity to 0 and the x velocity to 0 and makes a bunch of other annoying things happen. Not to mention the fact that the sizes are slightly off. So then there's also step 4. I get annoyed. So how do we circumvent these steps without completely ruining our code? We don't! We completely defenestrate the whole idea and try something new. To be fair, this is probably going to go horribly wrong. So in Scratch, and yes, I do realize I've added a lot to this code, it's not that hard to make a platformer script. You can set a horizontal axis and a vertical axis, ignore all the weird modification stuff, but really it's just changing Vx, or velocity x, by a certain amount multiplied the h-axis. The time mod, again, is not important in this context. Point in a certain direction, and change y, and then comes the collision detection, which I have labeled as fix x and fix y. Now, both of these technically do the same thing. It just asks the character if it's touching the world or the world hitbox, as it's labeled here, and if not, then if it is, then it repeats until it's not. change x by vx divided by 20, and then it resets vx. Same thing for vy with a couple of caveats, but all in all, it's a pretty basic collision detection system. Unfortunately, Unity does not accept this kind of collision detection system when you're using rigid body velocity. So, we're going to accomplish another goal. We can defenestrate the rigid body. So after backing up my code so that it doesn't absolutely omega die if I ruin everything with my coding, which is not insanely unlikely, I wrote a little collide script. I did a little bit of research on the transforming topic. I looked up Happy Potato. I battled very, very slow internet of doom. Ooh, it worked. And I watched videos about while loops, along with other loops, which is pretty helpful. It turns out that even Unity can't handle a simple repeat loop. And, to make matters worse, even when I'm not using a rigid body, it still can't handle it. It crashed the entire thing twice. I had to restart the computer twice. It was not fun. So back to the drawing board it is. Why am I using this stupid game engine? Okay, I propose a deal, you two. So I'll stop trying to not use you and I guess just try to work together with you. And, you'll be treated better than I was going to treat you. And we can work together for this project, I guess. Thanks a lot, guys. Really means a lot. So, yeah, no, you don't have to get defenestrated. We'll work through this together. So now, I have a new idea for the collision. And this is actually an idea I've had for quite some time now. I was just too busy trying to defenestrate the box colliders and rigid bodies to try it. That was a mistake on my part. Again, I'm sorry to all box colliders and rigid bodies that may or may not have been harmed emotionally and physically during this affair. With that being said, I'm going to need a bit of help to explain this one again, so let's call upon our new friend, the box collider, and we'll go over how I'm planning to do this. Okay, so now I have our friend the box collider to help us learn about the new thing that I'm going to do. So basically, I've had this in mind for a while now. I knew that it existed. I just was, again, too focused on defenestrating things. I'm sorry about that. But it's not the rigid body's fault at all, or the velocity like I tried to explain earlier. Yeah, that was wrong. If you already commented about it, then, I don't know. Change it to the word flower, potato, shrimp, or something. Anyway, so separating all three of the colliders, or four of the colliders, I guess, we have the bottom collider, which is on the left and checks for if it's touching something on the bottom. We have the box collider itself in the middle, and then we have both side colliders just consolidated into one because they basically do the same thing. And so all of them are registering a collision here. That's because, first of all, the bottom one is actually overlapping. That makes sense. Then the box collider is also colliding with the ground, because if it wasn't, then we'd just fall straight through. Also makes sense. But the thing is, the side collision also touches the ground because it has the exact same height as the box collider itself. To solve that issue, we just need to make it a little bit, I guess, less tall. And that completely solves the issue, or should at least, in theory. So, let's go and put that into practice. Thanks for helping me. So, long story short, it works now. And, well, not really a long story. I only really had to implement a few things. There is a bit of slight lisping when the hits the ground, so it might lose its X velocity for a frame or two, but overall, I'd say it's pretty good. There's no wall jumping, as you can see. It all works, except for the small lisping that I mentioned, but yeah, I probably should have implemented this sooner. So, I'm actually going to just do a drawing time lapse now. I'm going to draw the character of this game, and you're going to see how it looks, and also I'll tell you a bit about the game that I'm planning to make, so hopefully that'll be fun. So, with this time lapse, it's just not really anything special. I decided to make the character a small little plague doctor, which I then traced, and the character was originally created by one of my friends. They don't have a channel, I think, but I'm kind of making the character in the game for them, so that's cool. Um, I decided to use Scratch for the rendering and the art, I guess, because it's just a great art tool and I already know how to use it, so I did have to A, learn a few new things, and B, um, just shuffle this around and redo it a few times. But I did end up actually getting where I wanted to go with this, and it turned out pretty well. I don't really have anything else to say, so, um, this will be a metroidvania kind of game. Um, it's not going to be that complex, so don't worry about, like, it's probably going to be really short, but yeah, I guess just enjoy the rest of the recording. There's no music, I know. I'm not going to add music either, so it's definitely going to be a little weird, but whatever. Alright, so after a fairly short and actually quite enjoyable animating session, I had a lot of fun putting together the animation, and it's probably the first thing in Unity that's actually been easy to use. But now we have a nicely animated little character. Again, yes, it's a little buggy at the start, but there's a bit of nice squash and stretch, a pretty well functioning run animation, falling, jumping, all that fun stuff. Which actually basically concludes it for this episode of my Devlog series. So, stay tuned for more. I'm probably going to try to make these once a week now that I've actually gotten into the flow of programming in Unity, which has taken me a while, I will admit, but hey, it's finally happened. So, thank you for those of you who watched it this far. I hope you enjoy my next one, but until then, see ya! I may or may not be the only human on Earth who talks to box colliders. Sentient box colliders and sentient rigid bodies. Why did I give them faces? They're sentient now and I can't undo it. And now I have to speak to them, and they are now my children.